So I'm going to move forward with this and try and put this out. So thinking about this, and I'm hoping you guys can see this here. Okay, so when I put this here, hopefully this will let me, so once you guys can see it. So when you see me kind of pulling back and doing this weird stuff, and from the recording angle, it's difficult to see, I'm actually holding this. That's not a good one to use. So I'm actually holding like the tool I'm using to get the measurement like here. So I'm lining it up. See how I lined this up with this top piece? I put my nail down at this bottom piece. And then once I know that, it can help, I can use it to see the relationship between the lines, see which lines are bigger, oops, which lines are smaller. And so I'm gonna do this a bunch of different times when I'm drawing this object. And I'm trying really hard not to make assumptions about this object, right? I'm trying to remember that this object is, sorry, it's kind of weird because I'm doing whatever. So see how I'm like, if I do this, I can see, I can get that angle. I can figure out what that angle is. So I'm trying to not make assumptions about this object, but instead actually draw what I see when and where I see it. You'll see me also do things like this. So I would hold this here to see where in the world does this angle work with this angle. I did in most of my little drawings for the cube, I actually drew this top angle here over to the right, which is not accurate. I mean, although on that first video, things were flipped wonky. So I've got my settings fixed on here for that. But yeah, and so once I do this too, I can see that the top of that cube is not nearly as square as I thought it was, just with this little change in information. So that's what I'm doing when I see, you see me doing this. And so I'm going to use this to understand, because drawing is so much more about what you are seeing, for real what you're seeing, than it is about what your hand's doing. So I want to make sure that I can get to know this image or this subject for what the subject is, not what I think the subject is. It's another reason why self-portraits are so good and weird and like revealing. So like, see, I know that this line is shorter than this line. I mean, I did already know that, but you know, it's pretty close. Just showing you. And so then what I would do, so it's like here, got this line here, I would actually move my, like hold my pencil in the same angle and sort of check it out over here. Because this format, I'm just gonna go ahead and go like this, which is weird and not something I generally do. But you know, we're just trying. We're just trying stuff. Sorry, it's so weird to do it at this angle to show you guys what I'm doing. There we go. Okay. And if you think I kind of ran through it pretty fast in class, that's because I ran through it pretty fast in class. Because this is stuff we're going to keep going over. So I want to help you guys not be so frustrated when we touch on something lightly here. We're still at the beginning. I mean, we're getting there, you know, we're getting there. And now if I was working from life, this would actually be slightly easier to do, I think. Because I'm also getting into this cube. So it's like, I'm comparing what are the relationships between these edges here. Oops. So this is much longer than that one. But see, I have to keep my relationship the same to the object. So this is actually a little bit easier when you're working in real life, but or like you're working with something in front of you, but we're just working that out. So I'm trying to keep in mind what that relationship is for those sides. And I know a lot of people are frustrated, but if you're not drawing, I'm not going, you're not going to get it. It is going to take time and it is going to be really frustrating. So if you see here, one of the things I'm doing is I'm just extending my lines, right? Like I'm not even worried about where they end and where they start right now. I'm showing you another form of blocking in, like another strategy. And I actually don't use just one strategy. I use all these strategies. It just depends, like, sort of depends on my mood, and it just sort of depends on the object. And okay, I was about to do the same thing I've been doing, which is messing up that one angle. So we're just gonna what is that relationship between those? So if you see here, I drew this line just straight down here. And basically what that was this line. I just drew this line here as if this were going straight up so that I could know where that bottom one is. So, sorry. Yeah. And the more you do this, the more you'll do it, you know, the more it'll make sense, the more you'll feel like you know what you're doing. Okay. Now, so this line here that I drew, this is actually this line here. So it's really like, it's not, there's not even that over here, but this is just how I'm breaking this image down for myself. Now I'm looking here, let's see. Oh yeah, this back corner, if I remember correctly, this back corner, I think this back corner is in a pretty straight line. Now it's interesting because it's not quite straight. It's actually tilted a little bit, but it's almost the same as that relationship between these two points, right? So if I go from this back one to there, so there's this much gap, you know, and then if I go like this, there's the same gap right there. And these are the kind of relationships that start to come up for artists more and more in their work. They'll start noticing these things, and this is what you're seeing, you know, oops. Sorry, I have to get it straight. It's like I have to go back and forth. Okay. So I know that, so that's gonna help me put things into place here. I'm just gonna kind of nick here and wait, which way was it? Okay, that was higher than this. So I'm gonna take this bottom corner. This right here is that bottom corner. And I'm going to come off like this. I'm just gonna draw that line for myself, right? So like right now, this doesn't look like a cube, right? Just trust. Keep finding out where stuff goes. So I know that this bottom point here and this have a similar, and this top point here, have a similar spatial relationship in terms of their, oh sorry, got that wrong, as this point here and whatever this further point is. Now I'm gonna figure out first, where is this further point? Like how far is it actually from there? So I'm just comparing that line to this. Okay, so if I look here, this line is this long, and the line from this edge to this is just about maybe a quarter or a third shorter, right? So I'm going to look here and kind of see what that would be. It's not going to work because I didn't actually put that line in here. So let me do this line. So let me, okay, so measuring that. And then let's put it to, let's see, because I can do this in relationship to any line on my thing, right? So let's use, what line do I have? I have this back line here already drawn. So I'll find that. Okay, cool. Now let's go, what's the relationship of that line to here? So it's about twice. It's about twice that distance. So I'm just gonna kind of look here, like, about there, comes about twice this distance. I'm literally just gonna do this. Why not? Why, bam. Oh, look at that. It's actually like almost right exactly where I put that. So yeah, so I'm just gonna trace that back over. This is the shadow. Sometimes I'll kind of scribble in there, so just so I know visually. So we have this is the back line. We have this is that front line. And relationship to the back line. Okay. The relationship to that back line to this line. Let's see what that is. And since I'm pretty much the same. So I know to check this out, how much is the distance here, and to make this be pretty much the same, puts it on this extra little out there. Okay. Now I'll come back to this line because that's the one that I have closest that's going to work for this. I'm going to work on this line here. Let's see with my left hand. That's actually a little shorter. See how it doesn't really, it's not quite lining up. So I know when I come over here, go like this, do it with this hand, go like this, I know I'm going to be a little bit shorter than that. So okay, so we can get this feeling of this box starting here, right? And I'm not doing a ton of point perspective on this, right? I'm just getting sort of loose. This is the more involved one, and this is much closer to 1 and 2 point perspective, except for I'm not doing the whole thing. When you do 1 and 2 point perspective, you actually take these lines all the way back into space in like this way. That's not what we're doing here. We're just trying to get this cube here. So let me see. There we go. And so we're going to be going over this measuring stuff for like a really, really super long time. So it's totally okay. That was actually not right. Looking at my cube, something's definitely up with my cube. I think that this is actually, it's like, is something up with this cube, or is this actually just more accurate? But I keep wanting to see this cube as like different than it really is. Fighting some of my own assumptions here. Okay. So then I'm blocking in the shadow, and I can always gonna come back, check my angles, check my stuff here. What's the length of this? So I can tell, because I just built this relationship, this line here is shorter than this line here, which yes, I could see that with my eyeballs, but using this whatever this is, whether it's a skewer or an actual measure stick or a pencil, helps give you like an understanding of, yeah, it's different, but how different is it? You know, how much, what is the relationship? Is it like 2/3, like 3/4? And these are like things you're going to come to think of in your own terms ultimately. But I think of it in like thirds and stuff, you know, that's what I do. But that's about a third, that's about half, you know, whatever that looks like. So I am going to go through and do some squiggle lines on this guy because I've been doing straight lines for all these demos and I'm so over that. I support you guys in doing straight lines all you want. I'm just not really feeling it. Cool. So I'm going to come in and do my darkest area, and I'm not really like paying so much attention to the edge of the cube's okay. You know, this is a drawing, this isn't a major project, you know, I don't have to be so specific. Okay, and I'm just trying to get an understanding. So it takes a lot of these scribbles to get this super dark one, you know, a lot of these circles, but I said I was doing circles, I'm doing circles. So you might not be able to tell, but the motion I'm using in my hand is very circles. And then here, if I look here on this shadow, this is darker here. So it's like the core part of the shadow, the darkest part of the shadow. And it stops over here because there's like a little reflection I can see in this image. So you probably can't see it in this video, but if you looked at this image, you'd be able to see that there's a slightly lighter spot here. And we're just going, and I'm trying to get how much of this makes a value relationship between this shadow and this plane that matches here. You know, so if my darkest dark here is not as dark as this, that's okay. I just need to make sure that this value is in a similar relationship. So my darkest dark and this value need to be in a similar relationship as the darkest dark on here and the value in the image. Now, you know, I think I'm getting pretty close. I'm getting pretty close, that's pretty good. I'm gonna do a little curly boy here, because there's this little darker line here. And then this is like medium. So I'm gonna just sort of do bigger circles. Okay. And I'm gonna give myself a little background to help put this cube in space. And since this whitest white on the cube is at this top point here, basically, it's actually not, it's pretty close, but it's not quite, but it's close. I'm just gonna sort of go off like this. And there's a whitest white area down here too. So I'm just gonna get this little medium guy here. Cool. And yeah, so, and I'm gonna do that for the little cone guy and the pyramid and the sphere, and I'll do those separately too. I just want to make sure I have these like recordings for you guys going.